Karen Bonofiglio, Inner Realms, Outer Journeys. Hey, I have a treat for you. I just met this gal and she's pretty darn incredible. Let me tell you a little about Kelly. Kelly, would you like to say hi to the audience?
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, and she lives up north. She's almost all the way to Canada. She's in the state of Washington. Okay, Kelly has many extraordinary gifts that she loves to share with the world. She is, as people have come to know me, she's a remarkable pet psychic that specializes in animals because she has incredible capacity to do so much more. I really do know how to read, and I'm a retired school teacher.
Okay, I struggle with words too. So,
She's also a Reiki master, so we're going to have her back for that. She has a very diverse background, including being a dog groomer for 8 years and working at a horse farm for 10 years. I don't know, working at a horse farm, I could do that. Let's see, she's really passionate about teaching animal communication and hosting a Reiki circle for animals. She's happy to provide services all over Zoom or in person if you live close to her. Also, we were talking prices, and I never talk prices with people. She's extremely reasonable too. She knows that it's a struggle for people now just to afford basic necessities. She's very reasonable. Okay, so Kelly, first of all, what drew you to spirituality and psychic reading?
it's kind of when I kind of look back of where I began, and I grew up in a household where this stuff wasn't encouraged. I like to use the term Muggle-born a lot. I love Harry Potter, so I use a lot of Harry Potter terms, and the more
Mm-hmm.
I wake up, the more I can kind of relate to Harry Potter and the struggles
Yeah.
that he went through. And so I was, as growing up, I went to more religious background, but I was always really into the paranormal, the metaphysical stuff. I loved watching
Mm-hmm.
like the sci-fi fantasy shows and the documentaries about that stuff. And then in college, I started going, and I grew up in Ohio originally. I would go
Yeah.
to psychic fairs and I would have readings, and people would tell me, "Oh, you're very gifted, or you can talk to animals. You really need to embrace those gifts." But I was going through a lot of personal issues. Moved out to Washington
Yeah.
State about 10 years, just under 10 years ago. And I slowly started going back to psychic fairs and events out here. And I met my members of my soul family one by one. I feel like that's why I came out here, is to meet them and them help my journey. So then I started waking up, and they gave me breadcrumbs along the way to help me wake up and embrace. And I started doing, in 2019, I started doing psychic fairs and doing readings and just the pet psychic stuff. I also learned Reiki, and I learned every type of metaphysical thing you can. I learned about crystal healing, sound healing. I'm constantly doing sound baths and cacao ceremonies to help release the old version and do this. And I was a groomer for 8 years. And last year I got released from that job. Nice way of saying fired, but it was way first. And I say, and it was a good thing that happened because
Mhm.
I was led to do this business, and I knew I was supposed to walk away from grooming, but
Mhm.
I never would have left unless I was forced out, because
Mhm.
programmed to have this normal job, they say. So I
Yeah.
started this business called Elementails Intuitive Animal Services. This is my business card, my logo. I'm very proud of it.
Beautiful card.
And so I started doing the pet psychic work full time and for a living. And I love it because I feel like I get to help people with their animals and heal both them and their animals. And I love working with animals because they are here to help us. They are guides and teachers. And so
Mhm.
I really help everybody to kind of live in harmony and get better. And I love hearing the feedback from people when I do the distance sessions and I don't know how it works to send Reiki to people. And people always ask,
Mhm.
how does that work? I don't know. It's one of those mysterious things, but it works. And I've seen so many evidence of it actually working.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So before you do a reading, how do you prepare yourself for that reading?
Well, first we set up the time, and if it's a distance session with a pet, I request a picture of the animal. And also to clarify, I can do animals that are living and also animals that have crossed the Rainbow Bridge. So a lot of people ask me if I do either or. And so we'll set up a time, I'll send them the Zoom link, and right about half hour before the session, I'll come up into my office and I kind of clear myself and meditate. I'll burn some incense, I'll set up crystals. And when I do a distance sessions, I like to do what I call a crystal grid. So I'll get a disc like this and I'll put crystals around it. And if I'm
Oh.
working with an animal, I will use one of these little soapstones with the different animals.
Oh,
So if like
yeah.
I'm working with a dog, I'll pick the dog one and put it in the center. And I kind of listen to my guides of what crystals to go around. And then I'll use something like this wand or different crystal wands to focus on the energy and release. And if I can, I'll sometimes play really subtle frequency music that the person can't hear it, but I'll still play it because I'm a big sound healing advocate. It's an amazing tool to use, and I feel like people need to use that more. So I'll do that, and then like it's all I'll smudge with my smudge
Yeah.
incense and stuff to
Yeah.
clear the area, and I'll call on my guides and guardians and ones to help me, and then I start the session
Okay.
with
Yeah,
the
that
person.
cleaning and clearing is
Yeah,
important. So
yeah.
you work more is this, should I assume you work more with animals than with people with your psychic mediumship?
Yes, yes, I do. I like to describe myself as a psychic medium that specializes in animals. I can do stuff for people. I do hear spirits. I do have loved ones. I do Akashic journey records, but animals are my passion. They're my inspiration. So that's what I choose to work with. But a lot of times when I do sessions with people,
Mm-hmm.
when it's for animals, it actually sometimes becomes about the person. And if I'm doing a session for someone, sometimes your grandmother or guides will come through and want me to deliver a message because you're in a place to hear it. So I just kind of listen. I don't set a plan when I do a reading. I just kind of make it, not to say make it up as I go along. I just listen to what your guides and spirit want me to do. And it
Oh,
and
okay.
it's kind of, I don't want to say improvised or like plan. I just go with the flow and embrace it. And sometimes too, your animals will tell me that if you're at a beginning level of waking up, that you may not be ready to hear certain things. So sometimes they will say, "Oh, please don't share this. They're not ready." And I respect that. If an animal tells me, "Please do not share this with this person," I do honor that because I see animals as our equal, as these sentient beings, and they're here to help us. And if I share something with you that you may not be ready for, I might have ruined the lesson that you're supposed to learn.
Got it. So would you describe what waking up means?
I feel like it's such a broad term for me. Waking up is remembering who you are on a soul level and letting
Mm.
go of that programming of thinking that you have to be a certain way and a certain thing. And also you start like remembering essence of yourself, like where your soul came from. You start feeling more of yourself. And it's really hard to describe in just a few sentences. It's a feeling. And also, like I said, you just start remembering more about who you really are, and you feel better and you feel happier. And the process is different for everybody. Some
Mm-hmm.
people it's really quick, some people it's slow, and it doesn't matter. It's not a race of how fast you can wake up. And
Mm-hmm.
how my guys, and the more you wake up, the more your spiritual gifts come in. Because like
Yes.
before I could, animals was the main thing, but then the other gifts started coming in. And I just learned how to do the Akashic session last week, or sorry, that was like last year. My guides kind of showed me how to do it. So, and I'm still learning new things and opening up because you're never, I feel like you're never done waking up. You're never done learning.
I
And,
agree.
and I say
Mhm.
this to anybody because you'll hear some people say, "Oh, I've learned everything. I don't need to do anymore." I ignore that because even my mentors and my teachers are still learning and improving too. And they're still opening up to gifts that they're not used to. So yeah,
Yes.
you're never done learning.
I figure if we're still on this earth, we still have more to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, more to learn, more to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, too, you should do things on your own pace because, like, there's so many books out there of how to do something. And
Hmm.
I always say, do it how you want to do it, what feels natural for you. And there's really, and as long as you're not physically hurting someone or mentally hurting someone, do it at
Hmm.
your own pace. And a lot of what I do, I listen to my guides and angels, what they tell me, how I should do it because it works for me. And even
Hmm.
now, I'm actually starting to learn more about quantum healing and the multiverse and different timelines. And I don't know how I'm supposed to learn this, but they kind of want to teach me. They kind of call me an independent study where they want me to do it on my own because it works for me. But that's how I do it.
What's quantum healing?
I think it's working with different realms and different energies. I still don't fully know what it is. I'm just now learning. I have friends that do a lot of quantum healing work, and it's like working with the higher vibrations, the higher like 5D
Oh,
energies and above. And it's where a lot of your more like galactic guides kind of are, I guess. And I'm just kind of learning about this. And my guides have a weird, funny way of teaching me about this stuff because I sometimes have very severe ADD and I can read, but I get distracted really easily. So It's just my
I
personality.
couldn't guess that.
I know, and I so it's great being a psychic and a medium, but I have so many voices coming in and talking to me because I also talk to elementals and other spirits, and we were talking earlier. If you have that bright light, sometimes spirits are just naturally drawn to you. So I always have something going on. So my guides are actually having me watch movies like Marvel and comic book shows,
Mm,
and it sounds
mm.
silly, but if you watch like Doctor Strange and some of the newer stuff, they're talking about the different timelines and the different realms
Oh,
and the
okay.
multiverse stuff. And it's a fun way for me to watch it. So I'm entertained and I'm learning at the same time. And it's kind of fun when you go back and rewatch some of those fantasy movies and shows.
Mm.
There's actually a lot of truth into those shows that they put in that you think are just nothing. And if you,
Spirits messing with us,
yeah,
trying to get messages.
and it's funny. I saw one of my mentors yesterday. He does these amazing ascension activations, and he'd be another one great for you to talk to on this.
Okay.
And
Just make me a list.
I have a whole list for you. But anyway, in 2019, I started going to these activations, and I was at
Mhm.
his place yesterday. I got there early, and I was talking about all the quantum and timelines. He's like, Kelly, when I first met you, you would never talk about this stuff. And he's just seen me go from not knowing it and to knowing
Mhm.
it. But when I started in 2019, really waking up, I wasn't ready for this. It was a slow build up. And
Right, right.
my guides say it's like training to,
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
learning to run a marathon. If you could go out and run a marathon right now, but without training,
Yes.
you're gonna crash and burn and hurt
Yeah.
yourself and not you're gonna blow out. But if you slowly train
Ease
and build up
yourself.
for it, then you
Ease
can do it.
yourself.
So your guides kind of do the same thing with your gifts. They slowly get you ready to do those different energy levels, so that way you're not burn out.
Yeah, Kelly, I want you to define a word because you used that a little bit ago, and I want the audience to know what that is. Elementals.
It's all right. I say elementals. When I say elemental worlds, that's like fairies, gnomes, leprechauns, like what you call fairies are like fantasy creatures. To me,
Hmm.
those are elementals. I work a lot,
Okay.
and I call them elementals because that's what they told me that they want to be referred to as.
Oh,
That's what I call them when I say elementals, and I work a lot with the elemental world. I've had lifetimes as an elemental and an elemental being, so those are the ones I connect with more than anything. There's a tons of fairy energy and gnome and leprechaun energy where I'm at here too. Even Sasquatch is technically an elemental being.
when I lived in another house, I was walking through the woods and just enjoying what I'm doing and with my other dogs. And I just stopped dead. I just stopped and I go, there are fairies here. And I've never delved into that, but I just knew that there were fairies around me.
Yeah, they are real. People say, "Oh no, they're not real. They're very much real." And they always like to joke with me, like they don't look like Tinkerbell. They're and because people that's what they expect, that typical fairy
Mhm.
that we see in fairy tales, but they actually look more earthy. If you watch a lot of the Jim Henson, like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, that's how they more look like to me. That's how I picture them, and it's really fun because if you take pictures like in the woods and you look back at those pictures, sometimes you might see little faces, and you kind of have to use your imagination. And actually, I learned this years ago. Your imagination is actually your intuition, and you second guess yourself. You think, "Oh, that's just my imagination," but that's actually
And it's your intuition.
that is actually where your intuition is. So if you had a very active imagination as a kid, which was me all the time,
Hmm.
that's actually your psychic
Hmm.
gifts kind of pushing through. But we were told through society, oh no, that's not real, but it is real. And they've all told me that a lot of the stories of don't eat the fairy food, don't walk in this, don't do that, a lot of it is actually not true. The same thing
Oh, okay.
as long as you respect nature and you respect the forest and you respect the energies, you're fine. If you do think of something disrespectful, like throw your trash away or something along those lines,
Right.
then it becomes a problem because they're even now I'm
Mhm.
kind of hearing them telling they're the guardians and caretakers of the forest and nature. So
I have a forest nearby. I've never felt anything there, but I'll try to pay attention more when I go
yeah,
back.
and a lot of times we do things and don't realize that we're doing it. When I started understanding my pet psychic gift, and I'll tell people, I didn't know I could hear animals like I could. I had no clue. Even all the gifts, I had no idea. But now looking back, I realized I was always hearing them. It's like when I hear the animals, I hear them telepathically, like I'm talking to you, but it's a
Right.
voice in my head.
Mhm.
And a lot of
Yeah.
our animals that grew up with people, like dogs, cats, horses, especially those three, especially that have been with people for centuries, they have an easier time of speaking our language. And especially certain animals like dogs, especially, really do understand our language. And so that's where people second guess themselves when they hear it. They think, oh, it's not really me. And I see it all the time. What inspired me to teach animal communication is my dog, especially. She's a Labrador Retriever, and she's super stinking smart, and she uses
Mhm.
that to her advantage. And she's always talking to people and making them think that is their ideas, but it's actually her saying it. Like, she gets them to give them she gets them to give her treats and toys and cookies. And she's gotten my neighbor to give her 2 cups of food when she thought it was just one, but she kept hearing 2, and it was my dog saying, no, I get 2. And if you're coming over to my house and she knows it, you'll be at the store picking up food to bring over to my house. You'll all of a sudden feel this need to go down the pet aisle and pick out a toy or treat, and that's actually her asking
Picking that.
for it. And she can astral travel like it's nothing. I mean, and animals do all this stuff that we find is so hard and complicated. For them, it's like breathing, especially cats. When you talk about astral traveling, they don't even have to think about it. They're just, and cats are so interesting because they walk between the dimensions, and they see so many more things than we do.
Okay,
And,
Kelly, you have to explain astral travel now.
sorry.
You
So
keep
astral,
putting the terms in.
sorry, it's so hard. I'm so used to talking about this. I have to step back sometimes.
But we don't know, the level that our audience is. So
Sure, you're right. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, astral traveling is when it's like your body's here, but your soul goes someplace else, kind of thing. It's like I don't know the whole thing. It's like when you can be in 2 places at one time, if that makes sense.
Well, I've had an experience with that, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what can somebody expect when they call you and they're worried about their dog? I know a lot of people wait to the very last minute to find out what's wrong with their dog and if they should put down. I'm saying dog, just animals in general.
Yeah, sure.
Whether they should put them down and all that. What can they expect when they and I imagine you record this so they have that.
Yes. So if you reach out to me for a session, I don't have a website yet, but I'm in the process of getting one together. But I do have a Facebook page. So if you type in Elementails Intuitive Animal Services, you'll just look for the logo. I also have an email address that you can contact their phone. So people will reach out to me saying, I need a session for my pet. And they usually provide a picture of their pets. And sometimes there's issues with the pets. Sometimes they're not. Some people just want to see what's going on with their pets. And I still think it's good, even if there's nothing wrong with your pets, to check in with them, because you can find out what they want, what they need. And energetically, they do take on our issues for us. So a lot of what I do is releasing what they take on for us. And so that's kind of what I focus on. And if people reach out to me, I start the session out with what your animal would like to share first, and kind of let them begin the conversation, because it also helps me connect with your animals. And also when I connect with them, it's not a clear sentence or picture. It's like a fuzzy picture of missing words. So I'll ask questions in the beginning. And also your animals are talking to me from their perspective. So they may not understand each word or exact concepts. You kind of have to, and it might have been something that they experienced once. Like, for example, if you went to Starbucks and gave them a pup cup once, the first time, like 10 years ago, they actually remember that, and they will bring that up in conversations, and they'll bring something they've experienced once up. And so it's different for everybody. And I do record the sessions because I don't remember what I say, because I am channeling the information from your pets. So I record it, so when you're done, you can go back and rewatch, and I'll send it to you. And also I can give suggestions, being that I have a strong animal background with working as a groomer. I worked at a clinic for 3 years. I worked with horses for over 10 years. I have 2 cats and a dog, and my whole life I've watched animal behavior videos. I also went to dog grooming shows to learn about animal behavior and how to correct things. So I can give suggestions. I'm also I love learning about the different dog breeds and the histories of what they're bred for. It helps me understand their personalities and their quirks, and help to fix those issues. But I can't guarantee I can fix anything, but
you can help people though with that.
And I've had a lot of clients come back to me and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It helped a lot. Even with cats, I can give suggestions and healing. And it
I
really
need to have a session with you.
and it really does work. And sometimes I still sometimes question, am I hearing this right? But I've learned just to say it, and it usually makes sense. Sometimes it might take you a minute to clarify what your pets are talking about. or
Mm-hmm.
you might hang up and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask this. And that's another thing too. I have a 24-hour window. So if we're done with the session and you think of a question off the top of your blue, I give people a 24-hour window to ask those questions, because sometimes
Oh,
you're in
nice.
you're in the energy, you don't think about it. You're like, oh, I forgot to ask this, which I've done that before. If I'm getting a reading myself from somebody, I like to kind of do that. And I set the time limit too, because I've had people reach out to me a week later asking questions.
Oh,
So that's why I have the 24 hour. I've learned a lot of how to set boundaries and how to set up of
but
how.
that's really cool that you do that too.
Yeah. Well,
That is.
I'm here to help people and embrace it. And a lot of people really like that I ask, because I mean, I do make money off of this, but I'm not doing this to get rich. Good. My end goal is to help people and
To
have
help people.
a better relationship. And I will say, actually, when you have this, a lot of people do get closer with their animals because they understand
Yeah,
each
they
other.
understand them.
And even if there's nothing wrong with your animals, it's still good to get a session with me, even just for the Reiki itself, because all sessions come with a
So
Reiki.
you do the Reiki with.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
can do a combination of both. Like, I'll be talking to you, and I'll put my hands up with the crystal grid, like I was talking about, and I'll put my hands up and send the energy. And I can multitask. I can share, and so I do it simultaneously. So I'm
it's
sitting
good
there.
that you have ADD. Really,
Yeah,
I'm serious when I say that.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
am.
I was never officially diagnosed, because I'm an '80s kid, and that's my mom was actually a teacher, so she never wanted me to have that title growing up.
Me too.
So, but I've learned to
Mhm.
embrace it. It's also part of my spiritual gifts, and
And it's yeah.
I've learned so much more about myself as a kid now that I understand my gifts. I'm also highly empathic. I'm a Hyoka, which is the highest level of empath you can be. And
Okay.
I've been this way my entire life. And even a lot of my spiritual gifts, like the mediumship stuff, started when I was an infant, but
Hmm.
a lot of those gifts got suppressed. So a lot of myself got suppressed and kind of went into
Withdrew.
hibernation.
Yeah.
So I always had, like I said, looking back on my childhood, I always had these gifts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really good at multitasking. I'm also a Virgo, so I'm really good
Oh, me
at
too.
I'm also really good at organizing and doing it, so, and it works. Yeah. So when you do a session with me, you're both getting the animal communication and the Reiki. And I used to do it separately, doing the animal communication with the Reiki.
Hmm.
You can add on Reiki, but I still felt myself sending healing automatically because I'm a
Hmm.
healer. That's one of my natural gifts. So I just like to combine the two. And I also used to charge per animal, but if you have more than one animal, it doesn't really work because they all work together. They're all here to
Yeah.
help you. And so I feel like it's not fair to single out one animal. So I now worked with the whole household
I'm
for the.
really glad that you mentioned that. I was going to ask you that because people just do one and then not the other, and it's really a
Yeah.
combination of everybody.
Yeah, and I learned from my own animals. I feel like my own. I actually have a dog and two cats. My one dog is 11. I have a cat that's 18, and I have a cat that's 2. And so they all have taught me. They're my teachers, and they're here. And
Mhm.
everything I've learned from the dog grooming experience, I use to help clients. So I use a lot of my own personal experience of what I do and what works for me, and it
Mhm.
helps other people. It makes me relatable. And my animals aren't perfect, like I said, they have their quirks and issues too, but that's lessons for me to learn, and it's
Yeah,
for me to help me. And especially now, I'm learning about my older cat. I said he's 18, so he's getting up there and he's starting to slow down like an elderly cat should. So
18 is pretty old for a cat.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's hard for me to say this out loud, but this might be his last year. He's giving me hints that he's going to start slowing down, but I'm trying to be positive about it. And I've had him for 17 years, so he's been with me
I
pretty
know
much his
that's
whole
that's
entire
a
life,
hard
and
one.
he was with me during the worst times of my life emotionally, where he kept me here. He's been my rock, and so
Oh,
seeing him slow down, it's very bittersweet. But he's teaching me how to live in the moment and not feel sad and mopey as he can't do certain things. And he
mhm.
also, he's the first pet I've lost since understanding my gifts. So I'm going to learn so much about this process to help others.
Right.
He's also told me too that he is going to come back. Animals do get reincarnated; they do
Yes.
come back, and he's already told me it's going to happen. And actually, I knew 2 years ago that he was going to be start slowing down, because he told me about a year and 3.5 years ago, I think, that he was going to bring in another cat in, and he was going to train this cat to do things and educate them, because and then he was going to slowly start slowing down. It's almost like changing of the guard kind of thing. He's giving her more of those responsibilities that he took on, and she's starting to embrace it more and take more
Oh.
of that role as he kind of slows down, and he'll sit back and kind of watch her learn and observe. And I've learned a lot about her because she's here to help me be a better healer, and how cats, when they purr, they do actually send us healing. So
Mhm.
she's teaching me that more, and this is the first time she's been in a physical body in this life. So that's also why she got paired with my older cat, which actually
Okay.
does happen.
Mhm.
Sometimes you might have two animals and say, for example, you might have two cats and one cat acts like a normal cat. The other one might be kind of loopy or kind of weird. Well, that cat might be the first time they have been in a cat body. And so they want to experience what life is like a cat. So they will get paired with a soul that has already been a cat and knows how to do things. So they learn
From the other,
on the
yes.
other animal. And I've seen that in the last 2 years. And I've heard about this happening. So I've seen it for myself firsthand of how it kind of works. Because she'll look at things like she's just so fascinated by the world and how things function. And she's 2 now, so she's more how things go. But it's actually helped having my older cat teach her how to do things.
Do you think your older cat will come back as a kitty?
Yes, he's already told me he's coming back as a cat. He
Okay.
does not want to be anything else. He likes being a cat, and he's also told me not to go looking that it's going to be like the cat distribution system. Something that's going to happen. He's just going to kind of show up. So I've learned, and also he's told me he doesn't want me to get him the next cat right away because he wants to give Luna a chance to be kind of the solo cat, and there's some things I'm going to be learning. I don't know what. I just know there's things I'll be learning with that
Through
process.
that process,
Yeah,
yeah.
because sometimes when animals pass away, I've experienced this a lot before. Like, say you have one animal pass away and you still have another animal, the animal that passed away will still be around. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have a lot of sessions
Mhm.
where your dog will
Mhm.
say, "Well, I still see your cat around," and that's sometimes maybe like if one animal passes and that was the animal that slept with you all the time and was always by your
Yeah.
side, and then they pass and you think, "Well, the other dogs can come around." The reason maybe the other animal's not coming around is because they still see that
Yeah.
animal curled up with you. So I know
Right.
that's going to
Yeah.
be part of the lesson to learn. So
Yeah.
it's hard to see him slow down, but I'm also in some ways kind of looking forward to the lessons. I try to put things in a positive light because
Yes,
it makes it better, and I also see everything as a lesson for something for me to learn.
I agree with you. So, um, can you tell us about a memorable experience that you've had with this?
Oh gosh, there's so
Okay, you
many.
only get one.
Oh yeah, I think I think I'll share this one.
Okay.
This is the one it's actually kind of a funny story. It's more of a funny story, but usually the animals aren't with me when I do a session. But this one, I was at this metaphysical shop, and this lady brought in this little Jack Russell. He was an older guy, and she sat down, had a session. We did a session with me, and she said, "Oh, he's starting to lose his hearing. He doesn't respond as much." And I instantly picked up that it was actually selective hearing. That dog could hear her whistling, which happens a lot. And I said that out loud, and that little Jack Russell went right in front of her. It was so. I wish I had a picture
You
of
got
video.
busted.
It was so funny. He was so mad at me for bursting out. And I laughed. And
You
I
got
still,
busted.
this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I still share this story because it's so. And I see this so many times. How I'm trying not to laugh. That animals really do understand us better, and they know that we think that they don't understand, or they do know that sometimes
Oh
we think
gosh, sorry.
we're oblivious. So they do take that to their advantage. And I have
Mhm.
so many dogs and animals that come to me saying, please don't share that, or they're afraid. I had another
Hey,
session where a dog was sitting on the side watching me, look at me like you could tell he was really nervous. I was about to share something that he didn't want.
okay, so here's the deal. When
Yeah.
I talk with you about my animals, there is all sharing. They don't get to control that.
Yeah. And for the
Okay.
most part, I do share with it. Sometimes I do say, and sometimes I will tell the animals, sorry, they need to know this. But
Yeah.
certain things, I kind of go based on my discernment. But usually I do share I tell
Yeah,
them, like,
'cause I
sorry.
want to help my little girls.
Yeah. And if it's
Yeah.
something like a behavioral thing, I will share it. And most of the time the animals don't mind. But every once in a while they'll sit there and be like, and I've also experienced that too, like because I hear animals so well when animals are around me, they
Mhm.
sometimes don't believe I can understand them because they've been around so many
Oh,
humans that don't. So
that,
sometimes if they're around me, they're like, can she really understand me? So
yeah.
sometimes they will give me that information thinking I won't pick it up when I do.
Mhm.
So, and I've experienced that. When I worked at the vet clinic, we had a little cat that lived there. And the first time she saw me, she looked at me like, "You're different." Like she never experienced anyone like me before. And so,
Oh,
and
they
then,
can't get away.
and it was so funny. Like she never had Reiki done for her, which is like the energy healing I do. And I went up
Mhm.
to her and I sent her Reiki healing. And at first she looked at me like, "What are you doing?" And she realized she liked it. So then every time she saw me, she would get up and come say
Oh,
hi.
she'd love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and animals really do love Reiki and energy healing. And when I do
Mhm.
sessions, I close my office door because my younger cat will be up here walking in front of the screen. She gets in the way. So even
Jealous.
now I everybody has to be outside. Even my dog who behaves herself.
Mhm.
I be fair in my household. I'm an equal household. So
That's really cool that you combine the Reiki with the
the animal communication.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well,
I feel
that's how I felt like I kind of when I started this business, I tried to figure out how to do it. And last year was kind of like I kind of call my trial period, see what works, what doesn't work with pricing, with the signage. I make a lot of signs on Canva to go to
mhm.
different fairs, and Canva is my best friend when it comes to business stuff and creating signs. But I try to figure out pricing and how to do things. I used to keep it separate, the animation Reiki, but like I said, I kept seeing myself doing both. So I decided just to combine both of them because I really feel like I give Reiki with animal communication because I'm more of a healer and I'm embracing that healer side of me. That's I'm now finally more embracing even the leadership part. I'm stepping into more of that matriarch role that I've been kind of hesitant to, but now my guides are pushing me out there to be the leader that I am. So
Mhm. Okay, Kelly, you're
yes.
gonna have to think about this one, okay? It's not hard, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have to think this, and we're gonna wrap it up with this. What is it that you feel out of all of your gifts do you think is the most important to you, or most important for you to share to be of service?
The biggest one, and that one keeps coming to say, is one of my gifts is unconditional love. That's actually my soul. That was actually my original soul gift that I was given many, many lifetimes ago. And that is really the key factor. I think with all gifts is love. And love is a gift. Love, and especially having that unconditional love. Because the more you open up your heart and more you open up your heart space and feel that love, the more you're taking a tap in your gifts. Because that's actually really where it starts.
That's where I'm always talking about that.
Yeah, love. It's
Always
really
talking about love and gratitude.
love is the most powerful force. And I actually was talking with my guides too, and I talk with my guides a lot too, and ask me because I'm very different. I definitely don't feel like I fit in this world a lot, and I know more about that, but that's a whole nother podcast. I could go on forever about that, but I've learned like why I'm here and why I'm unique, and I'm here to give unconditional love. That's
Yes.
my main gift, and the way I even with everything that happened in my life and childhood, I have no anger against my parents or grudges, and I can see with people with clear eyes, even if I don't agree with them, I still love them, and I
Hmm.
still have the capacity, which is why animals love me because everyone has the ability for unconditional love, but I
Yes.
embrace it more than most humans. And so that's also why animals love me because
Hmm.
even wild animals, because I embrace that unconditional love, they're more drawn to me too. I have deer that come right. I can feed them by hand in my neighborhood because I
Hmm.
have that unconditional love.
Yes,
And I have
Lord.
another friend who has the biggest heart space.
Mhm.
He lives 2 minutes from me. He has a whole herd of deer almost every day outside his door, and he also gives them apples and stuff. But it's not just the
Mhm.
apples; it's the love.
I love that they can
It's this
feel.
big loving energy.
Well, Kelly, you've been fascinating. It's going to be fun to have you on again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have so much to share, and it's hard because like I love talking about this stuff, and for me, this is a normal. You're around my soul family. This is the stuff we talk about. It's for us.
Yes,
It's normal conversation. So
but
I
it's
apologize.
not for everybody. So
Yeah,
we have
and I apologize for saying stuff because sometimes even I forget. Like, wait, they may not understand this because like for my soul tribe and my
astral travel.
and there's so much more like this whole world and sometimes I don't realize how much I've learned until
Yes,
I talk to
yes.
other people. And I like I said, I'm not saying I'm better than everybody.
No.
But I like to put it out there. I everyone can do what I can do. It just I forget sometimes. And a lot of us forget
Mhm.
how much we've learned until we're like, oh wow, I've learned a lot.
Mhm. I've come a long way.
Yeah.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
and
you so
we
much
will
for
have
having
you
me.
on again. Okay, thank you.